So at this point now, is your career in the music kind of?
It's totally unclear.
It's unclear.
Totally unclear.
Right.
Again, not knowing these people firsthand, like I mean, I got to see those offices and that was great, but still, I didn't know those people. Right. So in my mind, I was like, I guess I'm going to become a management consultant,
right?
Because that's just what kids do.
Which is great fun.
Sound like a party. So I got a couple internships along those lines for the subsequent summers, not for that summer. And then my senior year, I basically looked around and I was like, all those kids look real unhappy. They're paid, but they look really unhappy. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to apply to grad school.
And they're corny and they're not doing it right.
I mean, none of them were my friends.
Right.
They're people who I would see in class and not talk to. Because I was basically like, unless we are forced to work on a paper together, like, I don't fuck with 97% of people.
I don't fuck with you musically.
Or anything.
Right.
I mean, it's...
So you were very cocky, man.
Isn't everybody?
Yeah, but, I think some cockiness is earned. Some cockiness is... You seem like you was cocky at a young age. Man.
I think I knew what I was good at.
Right.
And I knew what I liked.
Right.
And I have a fundamental mistrust of authority.
Right.
I think that's always been there.
So what were you good at the time?
To be honest, when I came into college, I thought I was going to be an applied math major. Like, I was like...
Economics, right?
Well, yeah, applied math. I was a co-captain on the math team in high school. Like, I was like a legit good math student. So I always thought, like, I'll just do something with numbers because that's like... It's one of those things where it's like, if you're good at that, you can get paid.
Right.
And, like, you should go do that. So many people aren't good at it that you just sort of assume, I guess that's what I'm...
So you see numbers and words.
I don't see numbers anymore.
Right.
I mean, the truth is,
it's hot in here, man.
It is super hot.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I got bad at math sometime like after college.
Right.
I went to grad school. What happened is I applied for a PhD program directly to a professor who was doing work that I was interested in, which in the mid-90s was like 3 people.
Right.
So I applied for that, and I got a job offer for a management consulting firm, and I got accepted into that program on the same day. And I just realized, like, this is one of those life decisions that you can't fuck up. You have to choose right. So I went to grad school. I said, forget Bain and Company. Mitt Romney. Forget that.
Was it Bain?
It was Bain.
Bain Capital. Wow, look at that.
It was Bain and Company in San Francisco at Internet 1.0.
Right. You would not be allowed to have that mustache and beard now.
No, but I'd be so rich.
You would be rich.
I would have like 10 mustaches just on the wall for when I felt like I wanted. It was in a mustache movie.
You would have the mustaches for the companies that you bought.
Hey, exactly.
So how do you go from grad school to this, man? Like,
well, I had already started writing for magazines. There were 2 magazines I wrote for in college. One was Herb, back when Herb was diversifying.
I remember Herb.
And the other one was it was called Elementary, which was done by this kid Adam Mansbach at Columbia.
I kind of remember.
He was sort of doing like a semi-highbrow rap magazine. I remember I interviewed Rascash for like 4 hours about poetry.
4 hours.
Yeah, I think that was not pleasant for either me or Rascash, if I'm being super honest. So I wrote for them in college. When I moved to London, I went to grad school in London. When I moved to London, Trace Magazine was there, and Trace Magazine was starting to pop. And that was a place
Black
where...
Girls Rock.
Was it Rule or Rock?
Well, Rule. Okay.
Right. BET turned it to Rock, didn't they?
See, look at that. Thank you, John.
That's okay. I got the T-shirt at home. It's cool. So that was starting to pop, and Trace was a place where you could just walk in and be like, I know about something, and like 24 hours later.
And you're American.
They were excited about that.
You're American. You're authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And hip hop, it was a different scene in the UK.
Oh God, totally.
Completely different.
First of all, different and not very good. But
I never liked UK rappers. Never. I appreciated them, but I never liked them.
There was one kid who came out.
Who do you like, man?
Ty. I like T.Y.
I like Dizzy Rascal. I like
Ty was just starting.
I like Kalashnikov. I mean, these are like younger guys that are out now.
Right.
Kalashnikov, Jamie, Skepta. They're dope.
But like in the old, I mean,
back then, no, you're right. Like I remember, like
Derek B.
I would say Derek B. was never into it. The Wee Papa Girls.
Black Twang.
I don't know about Black Twang.
I don't know about Black Twang.
Black Twang was like a thing in like '96.
Yeah.
That was like a big thing. The Wee Papa Girls.
Yeah, I was never really into.
But still,
Moni Love.
Yeah, although like she just abandoned the, she
Moni
like
Love,
practically turned her passport in. You know.
So you're in the scene.
So I'm right, and I'm there, and also what's happening because hip hop touring is starting to take on more dimension, and the underground in the States is starting to happen. A lot of those acts start coming to the UK. So literally within 48 hours of me walking in the Trace door, I'm doing a Missy Elliott feature, and I'm doing this, and I'm, Company Flow and things like that. So all that stuff is starting to come. So I'm building up a
Resume,
clip database just from that, and also interviewing the occasional, like, there was a guy called Skinny Man who was like super good.
Skinny Man.
He was like an Eminem in England. He was like a good white rapper. But mostly I was writing about American stuff for Trace, and then I stayed there for 2 years and I dropped out of my PhD program to come back to New York because I was like, why am I in school?
Because you figured now that this might be something that's real.
I knew it was real,
Right.
but I could have known it was real and stayed.
Right.
Because the British PhD is only 3 years. So I could have stayed one more
could have
year,
rolled that out.
written a dissertation
Right.
and just been out, but I was not ready. I was just like, why am I in school? I need to get the fuck out of
Now,
London.
how do you explain that to your moms?
Yeah, my mom was not psyched. My mom was like, so you paid for that? I mean, I had a scholarship and da-da-da. Like, I worked out the money so it wasn't crazy, but she was just like, I don't understand what you're doing. And you're going to come back to New York and you're going to work for, like, a rap website?
And you're going to live in the basement?
Yeah,
Right.
like, what are you going to do? But what happened right when I moved back to New York is my mom and her husband sold their apartment and moved upstate. So I didn't even have that option.
So you were on your own.
I had to figure it out, like,
Right.
within 2 months.
So how'd you figure it out, man?
I stayed on my man's floor, who was this cat, Jazzbo, who was a writer.
Jazzbo, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Jazzbo was probably like my first.
MTV.
Yeah, but back then, Herb Source, all that stuff, he was probably my first influence as a writer.
Cool cat.
Very cool.
Very cool
So I
cat.
stayed on his floor for like a month while I found an apartment. And then that was like Web 1.0. And all of a sudden, it's like everybody's hiring for web jobs. So I got one web job, and after 3 months, I went to Russell at 360.
360 hip hop.
So I was at 360 for a while, survived various
And
purges.
360, in a sense, I mean, I never knew what the hell 360 was.
Was that the satellite? Was that the satellite spot down in the village?
It was in the village.
No.
No,
On
It was
Broadway?
10th and 24th.
10th and 24th.
I'm thinking of something.
And,
Above the
but
furniture
a
store.
lot of cats that were there, man. Well, you were like, there were a lot of creative cats
Look,
there, man.
Selwyn Hines,
Selwyn Hines.
Chris X, Jazzbo, Dave Tompkins, who else?
You know my boy Kimson Albert.
Oh, Kimson.
Wait,
yeah,
what
of
was
course.
360 hip hop?
360 Hip Hop was Russell Simmons's first attempt at a rap website.
Okay.
Of course, what they were trying to do in 2000 was like a bunch of videos, and obviously everybody had dial-up modems, and that
Right.
died. And then Russell flipped it and sold it to BET and caught a check, and half the staff got fired. I somehow survived that, and I survived another layoff, and I worked at BET for like a year and a half.
Now, were you writing at?
I was the music editor of BET's website
Okay.
for like a year, maybe a little bit more.
Right, now, how was that?
I mean, all respect to my people at BET, but that was like not a real job.
Right.
We would do like 2 news stories in the morning, and then like I would beg someone to write me an album review. It's like people weren't really writing for web back then.
Right.
It was a new concept to people, and I
It was
hustling.
ancillary.
It seemed complete afterthought.
Right.
But I was hustling on the side. Like I was writing for The Voice, I was writing for Double XL, I was writing for The Source. Like I was just like, I'm gonna do me. And then by the time the layoffs finally got to me, I was actually already making more freelancing than I was at my job.
Nice.
So I was just like,
Okay.
love you. Please don't take all my MP3s. Make sure I get those before I leave.
So where do you end up after freelancing, man?
Well, I freelanced for a lot of years.
How many years?
6?
6 years.
6 or 7?
And you're making a living. You're paying your bills.
Absolutely.
Are you paying your student loans?
Paid off.
Paid off.
Probably during the BET era.
Okay.
Like very quickly.
Right.
Because I mean, like I don't come from a lot of money, so I got like a decent scholarship, So and Harvard's very
Because
good
you're a
with
very
finance.
smart guy.
Harvard's good with financial aid. It's not merit based. It's
Right.
need based. So by that point, I feel like I'm a legit writer. And then Danielle Smith gets tapped to take over a Vibe.
Which is kind of bugged out because you.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny because in our first meeting, I was like, this could have happened.
And now Vibe is
8 years.
established.
Yes.
Vibe
Vibes-
survived.
Right. Although the brand I felt like had been devalued a
Right.
little bit. So the idea was we would go back in and try to like boost it up a little bit. So I went in as her music editor, which was my first real legit magazine office job. And I was there for a year and a half. And, there are things about the office life that I like, and there are things that that aren't suited, that I'm not that well suited to.
Right.
So after a year and a half, I decided to bounce.
With too many meetings?
When you're a freelance writer, obviously you're edited. People edit you, but you're used to being like, this is my voice, this is my idea, and like pretty much as it's out of my mouth, it's more or less going to end up. To have things decided by committee, even if it was a committee I respected, was still like, I wouldn't say I was like emotionally well suited to that.
Okay.
So I think at a certain point, I was like, it's time to go.
But hold on, don't you deal with that kind of situation now at the Old Gray Lady?
I'm very blessed. I'm legit blessed because that job at the paper opened up within a week or two of me quitting. It was just fortuitous
Really?
time, very fortuitous
Now,
timing.
you know what? Let's go to a music break.
Sure.
When we come back, I want to hear how you got this gig.
Yeah, sure.
At the New York Times Internet, you're tuned into the Combat Jack Show. We got Jon Caramanica as our special guest. Yo, please tune into our iTunes page. Subscribe, rate the iTunes page. Visit the combatjackshow.com.
Comment there.
Comment there.
Okay.
Let's go to our music break.
And F your radio.
F your radio.